Hi everyone. Um, Obviously you're watching this at home or somewhere else, and it's a lesson where we're going to look at trying to make sure that you understand what it is you need to do for task 3 of fitness training and programming. You can see here in my Google Drive. I'm in 1A in the tutor group there. You will only see 3 folders here. You won't see this one when you go into yours. But let's have a think about the different things you need to be looking at. The actual assignment, if you click on your assignment folder, again you'll only see one, your own set in here. I get to see everyone else's. But within your own, for example, here I'm in Kelvin's in 1A, you'll notice that I've added and shared you onto a document called FTP Task 3/4, which is your training program and diary. If you open that up, what you'll get is a copy of the task spreadsheet as it loads, and across the bottom you'll see a number of different tabs. Just for the moment we're only concerned with the front sheet, the PARQ, the goals, the 3-month periodization and the 6-week program, and that forms P3. You're not worried about all these other ones here, which if you do on the scroll right button you'll be able to see the extra ones. That's your diary, which is going to form part of your monitoring process for P4. So just for the moment, starting with the front sheet, this is what you'll see. Obviously you need to put your name in here, and you need to fill these boxes in here. So if I were to go into here and I were to add in Kelvin's name, we get to see that cropping up and the date that you're filling it in. If we click on the PARQ, got a series of questions. You've already had to go out filling PARQs in during class, and certainly these can help support the writing of your plans, but if you click on the drop down it will give you a yes or no answer. So you click one of those, fill those in for all of them. They've all got drop down boxes. Make sure you click on the arrow, because if you don't, you just highlight the cell. So just click on the arrow and yes or no comes up. Scroll yourself down. If you've answered any yes to any of the questions, give some more detail about it. For example, if you're asthmatic and you clicked yes, you might write in here what triggers your asthma. And then put your name and date it again. Then we've got a section on goals. Now it's at this point here I want to direct you to something that should really help you. If you go back to your Google Drive, when you open your FTP folder, you'll see there is a section called Fitness Training and Programming View. There's a shared folder that you can get access to. In here there's different things, so a copy of the FTP brief. But if you look at Task 3, Task 4 folder, you'll notice I've put in a copy of the exemplar 6-week program. If you open that, what this is it's a copy of the same document you're going to be filling in, except I've filled it in as a way of you seeing the sort of things you need to be including. So you can see it's been filled in there by the student name. PARQ's been filled in. They said no to everything, so there was nothing to report down here. Move on to goals. You can see in yours will be blank. In the exemplar you've got some examples of things that are included in different SMART goals. SMART goals, yes. So we've got short-term, medium and long-term goals. Now notice that these are a mixture of performance and fitness based. So starting with the long-term, where we look at something maybe over a year or some form of performance cycle, this person who filled it in has a 2-year long-term goal, and that's to win a national title for tennis. In the medium term, which they've deemed to be over 6 months, they want to improve their national ranking by 5 places. And then in the short term, over the next 3 months, they want to improve their strength, speed and endurance for tennis. Now the specifics of this are that this short-term goal is something they're going to need to do to achieve the medium and then the long-term goals. And similarly, if they're going to achieve their long-term goal, they first need to get the medium-term goal. So if you think about making this long-term goal definitely more about performance and think of fitness as just one aspect that dictates how well you can perform, you can then work backwards into your short-term goal. That just makes it a little bit more realistic and a little easier to see where you're going to be going over the coming weeks, months and years. So that feeds in to the fitness SMART targets. Again, on yours is blank. What we've done here, as the personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach, I've looked at these goals and said that over the next 6 weeks we're focusing on strength, so you can see that's come from here. Speed, again from here. But they said endurance, and now I've, as the strength and conditioning coach or the personal trainer, I've narrowed that down to a specific type of endurance which they're going to need over the next 6 weeks, which is anaerobic endurance. And what I'm telling the client or the athlete is that if they can improve their anaerobic endurance, speed and strength over the next 6 weeks, I can work with them to get everything ready and get their speed, strength and endurance in place, specifically to do with tennis. Now that feeds on. To go back to your one, your blank one, you'll fill all those in and then you'll use that information to create a periodised training program. And we're going to be starting with the pre-competition phase, so that's the close and pre-seasons. Notice at the bottom it asks you to take the next 3 months as a macro cycle, so a performance cycle. And it wants you to indicate how your mesocycles and microcycles will be organised and what the training goals of each meso and microcycle are going to be. So going back now to the exemplar, I'll click on the 3-month training periodization and you'll notice I filled this in. So the whole thing is a macro cycle, and what I've done is I've merged cells together and color coded them. So in this example here, my first mesocycle consists of 28 days, so that's 4 weeks, and that's my pre-competition phase. And I've broken that down into 2 different microcycles. So I'm going to do 2 weeks of working on general fitness, and then I'm going to take that forward and then start making that more sport specific. I've then done 4 weeks on mesocycle 2, where I'm looking at a new microcycle. So let me show you how I did this, just so you know the mechanics of it. Let's go back to our own, and we get this blank periodized training program. Now, I mentioned that my first mesocycle I chose to be 28 days. So I highlight the first 28 days, and I actually took 3 rows here. And you see this button at the top here? This button, if you hover over it, says you can merge cells. If you go to the little arrow next to it, it allows you to select exactly what you want to do. So I can merge all, I can just merge things horizontally, or just merge them vertically, or I can unmerge cells that I've already merged. So let me show you again. Highlight the section you want, and as I just want to merge them, I can just click on the main button and then watch what happens. Miraculously, they all merge into what looks like one cell. When I'm happy with that, I can color code. If you scroll down your sheet, you will get the color coding. So the mesocycles are purple. So I can highlight what I've done there, my merge cell, go to my color palette, and I can select a purple color. If I then want to write in there, I just click on the cell, come up to the bar up here, and I can fill that in with the information that I want. So my first mesocycle, as you can see in here, we were talking about doing the pre-competition phase, getting ourselves ready to train, and then training sport-specific fitness. So I can say that is my pre-competition. If I want to take it into mesocycles, so microcycles, I'll do the same thing. Highlight the number of days I want, line it up with the rest of the month, come into merge again, go to my color palette, and I'm looking this time for a green color. I can color it green. Again, I can come in and fill those colors, that colored section in. And notice that we were going to work on general fitness. Think back to our periodization lesson. That was where we're getting ready to train. We're training to start training. Okay, so that's how you work that section there. One thing to notice down here, I haven't just organised meso and microcycles, I've also indicated when my competition week is. I think that's a pink colour, so I put it in there. And for me, for this individual, it was the last week of the programme. Should note to you all now, you'll notice I haven't filled all of these in for you. I've just indicated roughly what we're going to be looking at in certain ones. I'm going to leave it up to you to think back to our periodization lesson about exactly what information needs to go into each of these. But certainly you've got examples here in the first mesocycle to show you what you should be aiming to achieve with this. So I'm just going to unmerge everything and delete everything from Kelvin's. Just so I haven't done it for him. Okay, so going back to our exemplar, we then move on to 6-week training program. This is where you're going to select that very first microcycle, mesocycle. If we look there, microcycle 1 covers 4 weeks. So down here in our 6-week training program, we'll find that the first 4 weeks all demonstrate the sort of training that I'm going to be doing in relation to improving general fitness. And what I've done here is in the first week I've shown that I'm going to be using resistance training, anaerobic interval training, and some rest days in order to improve the general fitness of my client. We go back to the goals, and we should see how this links now. Fitness SMART targets were increasing strength, speed, and anaerobic endurance over the next 6 weeks. So resistance training, I'm going to use that to improve strength. And anaerobic interval training, I'm going to use that to improve the anaerobic endurance of my client. Once they've got good anaerobic endurance and they've got strength, you'll notice that when I came to week 4, I started doing some plyometric training with them to try and increase the speed of muscle contractions that they were going to be using during their tennis training and certainly during tennis competition. Once I get into week 5 and week 6, you'll notice on my periodized plan that week 5 and week 6 are the new mesocycle. So here I'd be expecting, I'm now into the moving more into the competition phases. I'm in that first section where I'm really starting to push the sport specific nature of my training. So I'm still working on plyometric and anaerobic, but this time I could add in that my plyometric training is going to be using tennis skills, and my anaerobic interval training using some tennis skills. I could copy that into those sections there. In fact, I could copy and paste into Thursday and Friday. Interestingly, if we look at progression, there's nothing here so far that indicates what the progression is going to be, other than changing the type of training that I'm doing in some way. In this case, it will be down to me on my individual session plans that I'm going to be writing to demonstrate how from 1 week to the next these trainings progress. So we see here in week 1 and week 2 we've got the same types of training. As we progress to week 3, we've still got the same type of training, but we would expect in there to be some sort of progression in terms of the intensity or the specific exercises within that session that we're asking our client to do. Once you've got to this section here, and these 5 tabs are completed to the best of your ability, then you're done for your first submission of task 3. I hope that's been useful to you. Please remember that if you go in your Google Drive, in your fitness training programming file, you can find the exemplar in the view in task 3. If we come back out, in your assignment folder, you'll find the spreadsheet for FTP task 3 and 4, the training program and diary, and you're only completing up to and including the 6-week training program. Thank you much for your time. Hope this has been useful, and I look forward to reading your training programs.